This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 255, How to Guide Your Customer to Becoming a Hero, an interview with Brandon Sok.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today our guest is Brandon Sok. He's the co-founder and chief operating officer for One Team Marketing Solutions. It's one of those full-service marketing agencies for small business owners. And he's also a Story Brand certified guide, so he helps clients clarify their message and connect with customers. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, Brandon's going to give us an outline for how we connect with customers through a story and 3 concrete pieces of advice that we can execute on immediately so that people clearly understand what you're about, who you serve, and how they can be successful if they work with you. So, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Brandon. Are you ready to babble?
I am.
Brandon, you and I met through a client, actually, and you and I were talking about websites and things like that, and then you had brought up a real passion that you had around telling stories, which seems to be one of the hot topics on Sales Babble this year. But you have a special in with it. Maybe you could tell the listeners a little bit about what's this all about? Why are you so pumped about stories?
Right. So last year, I went and got certified as a Story Brand certified guide. And Story Brand is actually a new push in the marketing world by Donald Miller. And he came out with his book, Building a Story Brand, which is a framework for companies to use to clarify their messages, to clarify their content on their website, to clarify marketing collateral, all with the purpose of driving sales and connecting with customers that need their product. So what he's done is he's studied, all the complexities of stories and boiled them down and said, scientists and professors and other would say, basically there's 7 stories or 7 story themes that all stories and movies and books will follow. And so what he did is he distilled it down into this one common narrative that almost every single story has. And so he has a framework then to use that in a way to communicate your messaging to customers through that story framework.
One framework. That's interesting because I had Mike Adams on the podcast recently, and he actually had a book called 7 Stories Every Salesperson Must Tell. I wonder if it's all the same.
Right. So Donald will probably argue that he took, he's taking a lot of academics would say there's actually like 31 stories. And then, a lot of people say it's 7. And there's a lot of different ways to tell it. But he said, if you're just looking very vaguely, and then he has these 7 principles. There's a character in every story that meets a problem. And then they find a guide who gives them a plan, who calls them to action, and then they either find success or failure. And so you can find that narrative woven throughout stories. So if you look at I'll go with something that a lot of people might know, like Star Wars. You have Luke Skywalker. He's the main character. And then his problem is obviously the Death Star and the dark side. And then he meets his guide, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who gives him a plan, who says, hey, if you do this, this, and this, then you can become a Jedi and conquer the dark side by destroying the Death Star. Right? Real simple. So he gives him the plan on how to do it. And then he calls him to action, says, Luke, you got to do this. So then he goes, he destroys the Death Star. And there's this balance of will he succeed or will he fail? And if you can really, as a salesperson or as a business owner, if you can really speak to your customer as that hero in the story, and you can really lay on the line, if you buy our product, you'll find success. But if you don't, there's this failure side, and you can really hold that out in front of them for them to see clearly and to follow, then you're going to convert, because story can kind of break through all the commercial messages that people interpret. So if you're thinking about the number 3,000 commercial messages a day, what is it that's setting your product apart? What is it that's setting your brand or your company apart? Well, Donna Miller makes the argument that the power of story and clarity can break through that noise and drive more sales.
You're the guide in this story, right?
So yeah, so in the story of helping somebody clarify their marketing or helping somebody to execute marketing to drive sales, then I and my company would be considered the guide to that story.
Why don't we dig into some examples? How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'll use our company as an example. So a lot of people would ask my wife and I, who co-founded the company, and we work together now, they would ask us, so what do you do? And I would say, well, like 3 years ago, we started a marketing company. And so we work with different businesses and we just do their marketing. So how clear is that to somebody that knows nothing about sales, knows nothing about marketing? They're sitting there going, oh, okay, I'm going to move on to talk to somebody else now. Right? Because they just that's just, Donna Miller would say, that's like handing them a bunch of bowling balls. And it's confusing and they check out. And so a principle that he drives home constantly in the book and throughout his material is, if you confuse, you lose. So for us,
I love that. If you confuse, you lose.
Yeah. If you confuse, you lose. And so we've shifted the way we even have to talk about our business. So starting with something as simple as your little cocktail party elevator speech, that little 30 seconds you get, that clarity can help break through the noise. And I have a really funny example of it. So I used to say that same thing. We run a marketing company. We started marketing. And I noticed no one ever asked follow-up questions. No one ever handed me their business card and said, hey, reach out. So I go to the Story Brand workshop. I get certified as a guide. I run it through the framework, and he helps us with a one-liner. So basically, what's your elevator pitch? So I rephrased it to this. I said, small business owners just struggle to find the time to execute the marketing that their business deserves. So we started a company that can prioritize their marketing for them so that they can grow their business. Right. Now that speaks a lot more directly to, one, a character that I solve a problem for, and two, what marketing actually is for that company or those people. And so the very first time I use it, a guy reaches in his pocket, hands me a business card and says, I'm a small business owner. I have no time. I need help. And then boom, he hands it to me. The very first time I used it. And that's the power of Story Brand and that clarity. Because before, if I said, I have a marketing company, or we started a marketing company 3 years ago, he's just going to check out because he's going, well, what kind of marketing? Is it digital? Is it print? Is it what? So that's the kind of clarity that our company tries to bring to salespeople and business owners.
What I like about your pitch is it really speaks to your value proposition. It gives them a clear result. Grow your business, a pain. People don't have enough time.
Yeah, and so if your listeners wanted to kind of work on their own little one-liner or their little quick elevator pitch, the basic equation for that is you want to state the problem. Then you want to state how you can guide them to their solution. And then you want to speak to that success that they would experience. So for us, like I said before, business owners that struggle to find the time to execute marketing, we create a company that can prioritize their marketing for them so that they can grow their business.
Really clean, really clear. And it makes it easy to qualify people too. So people will say,
right.
Well, I'm not a small business owner. I'm something else. Or
right.
or I already got that covered. Or
already got it covered. Or they say, you know what? My sister, her and her husband just started a company, and they're definitely small. And I think I heard them mention marketing before. Or I have a cousin that owns a business. I heard him needing help for marketing. It just opens up the Pandora's box for referrals and other things because there's clarity to it.
I love that you brought that up. Because the person you're talking to may not be qualified, but they may know somebody who is.
Right.
This is the power of networking.
Right. And that's what we found is we would say we have a marketing company, or we founded a marketing company 4 years ago. And even our closest friends 6 months later finally sat down and said, so what do you really do? And so how in the world can we can't even get referrals from our closest friends because they don't know what we do. So that's the power of clarity for your business or for your listeners' business. They can kind of harness that power in a way that not only can they speak directly to their customers, but they can speak directly to somebody who might be able to refer them to a very qualified customer.
Love it. This is really solid selling. We've been talking about marketing, but this is solid sales.
So, and some of the other things that the StoryBrand platform kind of brings is just really basic things for the website that, you can go on to all kinds of, because of Squarespace and Wix and WordPress and Shopify, anybody can build a very nice looking website. Literally anybody. You can go on, it can be beautiful. But the problem is, and the wasted money comes in, the messaging and the clarity is just way off. And so you'll show up to a website and it has a picture of somebody's building. That's like the intro picture, and they say something like, we're in the business of building trust. So what does that company do? You have no clue. How can they help solve my problems? I have no idea. They've confused, they lose. And so they move on to your competitor.
So true. That is so true. So it almost sounds like, too, a lot of people, although they have beautiful websites, if their just content was a bit more focused, if they had a better sense of their value proposition, and if that was front and center in everything that's on their website, or probably all the content they create, right?
Every single piece of marketing collateral. So in the StoryBrand framework, what you basically do is once you get that framework filled out, you're answering about 7 questions, and you really distill it down to this is the single answer to that thing. And then you kind of have a success bucket that you're pulling all the success from. What you're doing is you're in all your marketing collateral, you're pulling a little bit of the problem, you're pulling a little bit of success. Here's your call to action. Here's the plan. Here's a sprinkle in a little bit of failure so they know something's on the line. And it's really easy then to crank out anything from business cards to websites to sales letters. All the way through a digital sales funnel. All those things are very informed, targeted, and clear for your target market. And it just takes a little bit of time on the front just to kind of harness the power of the StoryBrand framework.
Got another example you'd like to share?
Yeah. So if you think of, I'll go really big company. This is not a client of ours, but just really big company that does a really good job with it. If you think about their website, if you log on to CarMax, if you go to CarMax's website, they do a wonderful job of communicating a story, solving a problem for their potential customer. So if you think about, let's say the character for this story is obviously somebody looking to buy a car. And then the problem that they face is they go to a used car lot, or they go to a car dealership, and they feel like they have to haggle, or they feel like they have to, negotiate and battle this sales guy who's just trying to grease his palms. And so CarMax steps in as a guide, and they say, look, we have haggle-free pricing. And that immediately positions them as the guide. So now all of us who are the character all of us are the character wanting a car, and they've just placed themselves as the guide, or Obi-Wan Kenobi. Right? Because they established empathy. And then the next thing they do is they establish authority. Shop our inventory of over 45,000 used cars in more than 150 locations. AKA, hey, we know we got a lot of inventory, we got a lot of locations, we know what we're doing. Right? And then they give you if you're on their website, they give you a real clear plan of how it works. You can either buy a car, you can sell your car, you can get financing. It's laid out very clearly. And then the biggest thing that a lot of people miss out on, and I think could be a really, really big key they could drive sales immediately is they have a very clear call to action, and you know exactly what button you're supposed to push. It gives somebody something to accept or reject. They say right on their website, get pre-qualified. That's for the financing. If you want to buy a car, then it says find your car. If you want to sell your car, it says get a free appraisal. So it's a very clear call to action. And a lot of people just miss out on that. They have an ambiguous button up in the top right corner that says learn more. Like, who wants to learn more? They've got 3,000 commercial messages coming at them a day, and you want them to learn more about what? And a lot of times there's all kinds of about us, contacts, frequently asked questions, and then 5 other tabs all surrounding a button that's not very clear or pretty vague. So people don't really know what they're getting. But on the CarMax example, if I'm looking to sell my car, there's a big yellow button in the middle of the screen and in the top right corner that says get a free appraisal. So what am I going to get if I click that button? A free appraisal.
Free appraisal.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not learning more. I'm not getting started. You could almost, Donna Miller has used this example before, but if you think about like a dating relationship, if you're on your first date and you just walk up to a girl and you say, learn more, is she going to, right? She's probably not going to accept that offer for a second date. But for a first date, if you go up to a girl and you give her, hey, I would like to go out with you. Would you like to go out on Saturday to this coffee shop? That's very clear. She knows exactly what she's getting into. It's a whole lot easier.
A whole lot easier. Yeah. So what's the first step people can take to start integrating more of these stories into their selling and marketing?
I think the first thing would be, 2 big takeaways would be, one, work on that one-liner. Work on that equation of you have a very succinct problem for your target market. You have a solution that your company provides, and you talk about the success that they can experience. And if you start incorporating that when you meet people at networking events, when you are talking about your company on the phone, even for your internal messaging, if you think about your company, let's say you have 20 employees or 30 employees. What are your employees telling people that they do? What are they saying about your company? You might have 30 different commercial messages going out from your staff today. What does that lead to in the marketplace? Confusion. But if all 30 of your people were saying, this is the problem we solve, and this is a success that the target customers can find, then all of a sudden your referrals open up. There's more clarity in what you're saying from top to bottom. And then the other thing would be just really basic, have a clear call to action on your website. Top right corner, there should be a call to action button that's a different color. It's the obvious button to push. Buy now. Schedule a consult. Get a free appraisal. And then that same button needs to be repeated down the page so that everyone knows this is how I start with this company. And then actually, as I think about that, there's another really easy thing. Yeah, a little bonus feature because I have a bad memory. They could have a very clear plan, right? So if I say buy now, well, what am I buying? Or if I said schedule a consult, well, what happens after the consult? When do I actually get to experience the transformation or the success that you're talking about? Well, if you can put on your website and your marketing material a clear plan to action, then it kind of knocks down the objections that people might have. So think about if you were a financial advisor, right? If your first call to action to somebody was, hey, why don't you come into the office and bring your checkbook and I'll take care of your retirement? How many people are actually going to show up with their checkbook? Not that many people. But if you were to say, step 1, just schedule a consult. Then step 2, at your consult, we're going to find a customized plan that you can follow for the rest of your life. And then step 3 is we're going to finalize that plan and you can sit back and relax and trust that your retirement is growing and that you'll be prepared.
Simple.
The second one is, very simple, very easy to follow, and it knocks down a lot of the objections, and it lets people know what's in the future. All right, I'm going to schedule a consult. Then they're going to give me this custom plan, and then I get to enjoy the rest of my life without having to worry about my retirement.
Right. That builds trust. Yeah. Brandon, how can people find you online?
So our website is oneteammarketing.com, and that's all spelled out ONETEAM marketing.com.
Okay.
And then they can also find on LinkedIn. I've got a profile on LinkedIn.
And
Brandon's.
Yep. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm interrupting you.
I think I might be the only Brandon Sock. I don't know. I haven't really searched it, but SOK is the last name.
And I think we're connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I connected on you.
And then if people are interested in the Story Brand framework, or if they're interested in the book or one of Donna Miller's marketing workshops or his online class, he's got a lot of ways that business owners and salespeople can learn the framework and start applying it today. So you can either do the online class, you can attend a 2-day workshop, you can buy the book. All those options are available, and I can send that information to you if you want to put in the show notes.
I think you already have, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I think you sent me those earlier this morning. So, folks, I'm going to have those links, and I'm going to make sure and place those in the show notes so that you can click on those. Brandon, Thank you for visiting us here in Sales Babble. Thanks for telling us your story and telling us about stories.
Yeah, no problem. And if you don't mind, I got one thing I'd like to give out. If listeners wanted to, my company, we will do a free website audit for them. So if they wanted to they just reach out. They can reach out in LinkedIn or through email or through a contact form on the website. If they just mention your show and then put a link to their website, then we will actually go through and do a full audit of their messaging, their content, their design, their sales funnel. So we will actually run it through the framework and see how it stacks up, and then give them some helpful pointers on ways that they can make simple changes to start leading to more conversion.
Excellent. And I'll make sure and place that on if people want that, how should they connect with you? Is there a place on the website? Does it send you an email?
There's a contact form on the website. They can just email me directly. It's brandon@oneteammarketing.com. Or they could send me a message on LinkedIn, whichever way is easier for them.
Sounds good. Excellent. Brandon, thank you very much. Again, thanks for visiting us here in Sales Babble. Thanks for babbling. Way too often I'm working with people, and I have no idea what they're saying. I don't understand what exactly they're selling or who they're serving or any of that kind of stuff. So this idea that if you confuse, you lose, it viscerally has a lot of meaning for me. I love this idea that you need to state the problem, explain how you as a service or a product guides, and then speak to that success. Or 3-step opening of a conversation makes it really easy to find qualified prospects. To connect with Brandon and his Story Brand and his training for the Story Brand certification, you can find those in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com. I know we've talking an awful lot about story these days. I'm not really certain what this whole vibe is about these days. It seems like everybody's talking about this. And I mean, I've had people on here talking about stories off and on for the last 4 years. But it just seems most recently it's pretty common. And I think what it is there's just so much noise out there in marketing. There's so much chatter that it's really hard to differentiate one company from another. Stories is the thing that really ties us together. It ties people together, and it's something they can relate to. And if you can give a good story that people go, yeah, I see myself in that. I see where I can be the hero in that. I think it really can make a big difference. Just the other day, I was at Aurora Business United, and I gave a talk, and I started it off with a story, and it immediately got people sitting upright and listening. I highly recommend it. If you got a question, if you got a comment, don't hesitate to reach out and connect. Did you enjoy this podcast? Share it with your friends. Word of mouth is how we grow a podcast. That's all I got for today, guys and gals. Until next week, take care and have a highly successful and profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.